Well, hey, y'all. It's Tracy Mack, your favorite podcast host on the Black Women's World podcast. That's the BWWP, baby. Listen to all my sister Nistas and sis Nista lovers from wherever you are, all over the world. Welcome. In the words of Prince, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Now, have you ever had a time in your life where you have had to weigh the risks versus the possibilities? I have. Let's go way back and talk about it. Welcome to Black Women's World, where Black women vibe and thrive together. And if you ain't a Black woman, you'll get to know at least one. Because this Black Women's World, my Black woman's world, is whatever I say it is, simply because I am. So welcome, Sister Nistas and Sister Nista lovers. We're here for you. Much love and peace. Well, hey, y'all. It's Tracy Mack. Listen, have you ever had to decide between taking a chance because of risks or possibilities? Just about every time I come on social media to share something, whether it be my Get Grateful with me or my Be Gratitudes, or just share something I find helpful, I become vulnerable myself. But I don't expect other people to necessarily be vulnerable with me. I try to share situations and stories. Like if I share something about my parents, it's something that I've already gotten the grace from them to share publicly over the years, their testimony of their marriage, divorce, or whatever. In my growing up, I get to share my experience. And then just in life. And so sometimes when I hear or feel to come and share, it's two things. I decided the risk of somebody taking it the wrong way, somebody assuming you're talking about them, the risk of being misconstrued, lied on, your words being taken out of context. But let me tell you, the possibilities always outweigh the risks by the time I hit that record button. Because someone's life, I've gotten a testimonial from somebody through way of text, through messenger, in person. They say, that video you said that day, I think I shared one time with you all, someone even told me that they were on the brink of suicide, but something I said made them rethink. So I ain't worried about them risks, because the possibilities always, if it's any way possible that somebody can be encouraged by something I share. The second reason why I do more videos is because I don't do hardly any one-on-one spiritual counseling or coaching anymore. That was a burnout phase where I was jumping all over the place, calendar booked 10 hours a day, and you just get to a point where, whew, it was a lot. And then the nature of what you're talking with people about and their stories, and I don't have a right to share their stories. And many of their stories, quite honestly, I hope I forget. I want to remember the triumph and the testimony, but I really want to forget the devastation. I want to separate myself from that. And I think I've done a really good job. So when I come on to share something, it's because I really feel the possibilities outweigh the risk. And I'll take the risk because I haven't missed anything. Whatever people say negatively, my life is still exactly where it's supposed to be. People say don't share your dream, and they compare it to the story of Joseph when he shared his dreams with his brothers, and they got jealous and put him in the pit, and he went to prison, but he ended up in the palace, and then he'd end up blessing them jokers. And I do agree, you need to tell everything. Somebody once said, if you're wise, there are two things you do. Number one, never tell everything you know, and number two, So I was thinking to get to one of the points I want to say today is when I was younger and we lived in military housing, y'all probably saying, why she keep going back? I have to go back to stories about myself. Number one, my pattern of life, it helps me heal. And then you find out how many people have the similar stories and situations. And not only that, I try to put a gap in between when I share things, because I've got some people listening and watching, just listening for their name, or just listening to see if I'm going to tell their situation that is private, or I had to sign an NDA for. Some people are chomping at the bit. Listen, let me see if she's going to say it so I can get her. You ain't got to worry about it, baby. But what I find is that they're patterns. So I can talk about something from my own childhood that will make somebody think I'm talking about them because I'm talking about something collective, the stories and the lives I hear from people as a pastor, coach, and chaplain and spiritual counselor. What I see, there's so many similarities, and negativity and evil ain't got but one script. And so when I'm telling a story and people think I'm talking about them, and I'm talking about me because I don't mind being vulnerable, and I'm not going to share your story. So I have to go way back to put some space in between something that's happened recently or within the past 5, 10 years, unless I have that person's permission or unless I can tell it in a way that completely keeps anonymity. And so when I was younger, growing up in base housing, we lived in a diverse community. Anybody who knows what that life is like, I remember we had a Hawaiian family that lived on the corner, and they had they gave us a kitten, my first kitten. We named Downy. It was a white Persian. The people right next door to us, the dad was white and the mom was from Alaska. On the other side, it was a white family. Across the street, it was a Filipino family. And during that time in that particular housing area, it was a lot of strain and pressure. But as a kid, you didn't know but too much because we played outside. Well, most kids played outside. And during that time, at one year, my dad was overseas. And I don't know what it was, the nature of the beast or something in the water, that the teenagers during that time were really giving their moms a fit while their dads were gone. So much so that the neighbors across the street, the two boys literally picked their mama up and threw her out the house. And we witnessed it. And my mom witnessed it. And she tucked that lip and she said, ain't no never happened to me. So she brought down the iron fist to make sure that me and my siblings, who were all of teenage years, were not going to be picking her up, throwing her out the house. And she got us very involved as much as she could in going to church, and my siblings got involved in after-school sports activities because she knew the nature of at least our street or in our community. We lived in Staff K Park and Cherry Point Base. She was not going to be thrown out her house. So she whipped that belt out, a broom, whatever it took to keep us in line while my dad was gone. But during that time, I had two little friends. And one of my friends, Becky at the time, she's the one who told me I was black one day on the playground. I didn't know. And I've shared with you all this before. And another one was Kim. She lived down the street. And my life was completely different from theirs. We listened to music in my home. We laughed and played. It wasn't all hell and high water. It was just mixed with a lot of it. But we played. My mom cooked. She sold Tupperware. She worked at the bank. My mom was a little hustler back then. She even did home interior. Y'all remember that back in the day? But she just made sure we were always doing something to keep us disciplined. And if we got out of line, sister brought down the hammer. So by the time my dad got back, we were good to go. But I had two little friends that always wanted me to come play outside, Becky and Kim. Can Tracy come outside? Well, for one, I had chores. Them jokers didn't have to do chores. My name was on the schedule. My mom had a schedule on the refrigerator, whether it be you wash the dishes. And wash the dishes in my home was washing the dishes, drying the dishes, putting them away, wiping off the countertops, taking out the trash, sweeping and mopping the floor. That was every day. So even at my young age, she would kind of assist me in those things I was too small, too little, too short to do. But when her and my siblings had dish night, it consisted of that. And so I had chores, and Becky and Kim didn't have chores. Also, I went to church a lot with my mom, at least a couple nights a week. I don't think we had started going 5 at this point. But so sometimes I wasn't even at home. And then I also had to do homework. And then I was kind of sickly back then. I had anemia pretty bad, and whenever I went outside to play at length, I would get nosebleeds and blisters on my skin. So it wasn't sunburn, it's called PMLE. So my mom didn't let me go outside too much, at least during the heat of the day, and I could play on the back porch. I told y'all this when I used to have my little tea parties with God. And my friends, Becky and Kim and some of the other little girls would come and play with me on my back porch. And then when the day cooled, I could go outside on the monkey bars, the swings, and have a good old time. So I had a good time playing outside, stickball, skating, hopscotch. Good old time. kickball. Did I say kickball? But there were so many times that I do remember that they would knock on the door and I couldn't play. And they couldn't take it out on my mom. They take it out on me. And it got to a point where they knocked, can Tracy play? To the point they stopped coming to ask. If my mom said no, she can't. Or sometimes she'd make me go to the door and say, tell your friends you can't come outside. And that set up a lot of different things. Because when I did come outside, and I don't blame them, once they got tired of knocking on the door to ask could I come outside, they stopped coming. And then when I would go outside, it was like, And so I found myself either finding other friends or finding to do things by myself. But you just never know, because sometimes people don't realize, whether it be children or someone in your life now, because I use my story as an example, but I'm talking to the spirit of the matter. Sometimes people may not understand why you have to do something else. You may be tapped out. You may be exhausted. You may be having to do some chores in your business, in your personal life. You may be going through some things, a death in the family, a death in a relationship where you're grieving. And sometimes those people who want you to come outside and play may not have the capacity to help you deal with what you're dealing with. Whether it be they couldn't help me with a nosebleed or whatever was going on. They couldn't help me with my chores. My mama gonna let them in to do that, and so they didn't understand. So sometimes people punish you I know then that they just stopped playing with me. And sometimes if they needed an extra person, and I've never been athletic, so if they needed an extra person to play kickball, I was going to be the last one to get picked. So, and I just go inside and play music, color my coloring books, and write. But I just begin to think about those times in any of our lives where you're doing something and those people may not understand what's going on the inside, not on the inside of your physical home, but the inside of this home. And sometimes you just have to say, hold on, because those people either can't, won't, or don't have the capacity to give you what you need. You say, hold on, just hold on. Can I borrow myself for a little while to give myself the time, the space, the energy I need until I can rejuvenate and we can get back in the groove. And sometimes you have to learn to just do without it. And sometimes those people, I know my friends, as little girls, because they don't really have the capacity or the maturity, and some people still don't, that they'd rather you live without whatever they can't give you. And that's very sobering. That is very sobering, is that sometimes people will want you to learn to live without what they can't give you. And when you decide to choose you, how can I put this in a way? If you don't decide to choose you, then you'll realize that they'll lose value in choosing you too. Because on the upside is, once you choose yourself, and it's not selfish, people say self-care is selfish. It's one of the least selfish things you can do, because it allows you to know yourself well enough to know how much you can give people. And in good relationships, what you can exchange with people. So sometimes when you're taking the risk, understand that even right now I'm taking a risk, because I know so many situations that are going on, like what I just explained. And it may go back to childhood for some of us. It may come through adulthood. It may come through adolescence. It may come through marriage, friendships, colleagues, co-workers, family. Just make sure that when you're thinking about the risks, that the possibilities always outweigh them. I know for a fact that what I'm saying is resonating, whether it be that you've gone through things like I have, or you may have been on the other end. Because a hit dog will holler. You may not even be talking about somebody, and that hit dog may not holler to you, but they'll holler to their crew. And before you know it, a whole rumor then got started about something you said, and you weren't even talking about them. So at that risk of being vulnerable, I'll take it. I'll be like Joseph. I won't tell all the dream, because imagine if I'm sharing all this with you. Imagine how much I'm keeping. I'm going to end it right there. I'm grateful and I love y'all for real. Much love and peace. You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by Tracy Mack Solutions for Life Institute, coaching and training services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of Sistanistas and Sistanista lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what Sistanistas do, on purpose through mission with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my Sistanista, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, Tracy Mack. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.